Welcome back, or welcome to Brutally Honest Chats with Yogis. My name is Sally Golestanian, and I started these conversations to bring in a lot of yoga teachers from around the world and have conversations with them, honest conversations with them. But I'm gonna just jump right in today. I have Rennie Yoga Ren here ready to join us. I'm gonna invite her over and then I start the conversation there, okay? Give me one moment. Hello there.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So happy to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to being here today.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to see you in person.
Same, same. I love this social media world. I mean, online world, I guess I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Um, Rennie, I did not go through introduction to do the introduction, and I just brought you over, and I would like you to start doing the introduction yourself. Please introduce yourself and let us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Rennie and I am in New Jersey. I started doing yoga back in 2015. Um, I started meditating before I started doing yoga, and so it seemed like a natural transition for me to start doing yoga, and I didn't really fall in love with it until I found the right instructor. And that's why it's such a goal of mine to make all my students feel comfortable and love yoga the way I do because, other, like here, if you go to a gym, people think like, oh, it's a yoga, it's got to be a fast paced power yoga kind of class. And that's really not what yoga is about. And I am telling you that, like, once I started practicing yoga, my whole world changed, and it has seen me through so many obstacles, medical and otherwise, that I just want other people to understand that, like, yoga is not like, I love the I don't remember who said it, but it's not a workout, it's a work in. And that's
I love
kind of
that.
how I go by. That's like how I teach, so that people can understand that it's not just for your body, it's for your mind and your spirit as well. So I got my YTT, I did 300 hours back in 2018. And then I got certified to teach chair because I have MS and I wanted to also be able to help MS patients that aren't as mobile or as ambulatory. And then I got my restorative after that. That I did that more for myself than for teaching because it's just so good.
It is.
But yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, I agree with you. I mean, the restorative is absolutely the one. Is you just want to know how to do it and just do it at home. Just it's beautiful. And teaching it has another level of joy as well.
It's such a beautiful way to like close out a stressful day. Just like I just take like five restorative poses and just string them together and I just sink in and I'm like, transported to a whole nother world. You
Absolutely. And the
know,
best sleep after that.
yeah.
That always makes the sleep much better.
Yes. Yes.
Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing all that. So you practice, I know you have your 300 hours in Hatha yoga and then you have certified as chair yoga. Tell me a little bit. I want to just dive in because I don't see many chair yoga teachers. I have at some point taught some chair yoga classes and I got certification. That was back in 2018 or 19 I taught classes, but it's been a few years of gap. Tell me a little bit about chair yoga and how personally use it, whether in your teachings, working with patients, chronic illness. Tell me a little bit about that, please.
Well, the great thing about chair yoga is that, well, first of all, it's not great that people view chair yoga as not real yoga because it is. You enjoy the same energetic benefits from the poses that you do in a chair that you do when you're standing. And so when I first started teaching chair yoga, I had a pretty good following of people who practiced with me in regular classes because they just liked the fact that they felt like they could go a lot deeper
Mm-hmm.
because the chair was there to support them. So, like standing on their feet, yeah, they could do a warrior two on their feet, but when you're supported by the chair, how much deeper you can go and feel so much more. That was something that they really liked. So then I was like, hey, well, that's pretty cool because, like, if I have a class of people that are regular practitioners of yoga, I develop my own sort of style. Like, look, I can teach MS patients or senior citizens. Like, I know how to teach, people who
Yeah.
aren't as ambulatory, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when I have regular students that practice with me in a regular hatha yoga class, that I started to, like, in my dreams, I would envision, like, okay, we did that pose in class today. How could I make that happen in a chair? And so, like, my friends keep on telling me I need to write a book,
Which
because
is
I have a very specific style, and I think it's maybe like hatha chair flow or chair hatha flow or something like that, because it is a challenging class and you feel it the next day, especially because you can go so deep knowing that the support is there for you and you can back off at any time. So I do love that part of it, but you know, my first intention was to be able to teach, the chronic illness community that they can still do yoga whether or not they're ambulatory or not, or if they have trouble getting up and down off of the mat, because that's a population that needs yoga more than anybody. And so, and I remember, like, the owner of the studio where I was at the time was sort of like, well, you don't need to get a certification to teach chair yoga. Like, she was very anti me getting certified. And I was like, but what if I want to do things outside of this studio? Like I wasn't married to the studio, and I had goals of, maybe bringing it to a senior center or to a active adult community or wherever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter, but I want people to know that I am qualified. And what shows that I'm qualified, sadly, we have to get these certifications. It's sad and not sad at the same time. I don't know, I'm kind of torn. Um, my 300 hours is not a Yoga Alliance certification,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so much more comprehensive. I will put my training to anybody else's that's Yoga Alliance certified any day of the week. Any day of the week. And it wasn't this 2-week yoga teacher in a box kind of program. It was
Mm-hmm.
10 months fully intensive on weekends and on other days of the week when we had field trips, and we went to a kirtan, we went to other studios and took classes, and then we would analyze the class afterwards and say what we liked, what we didn't like. There was no spirituality or whatever. That's just what we did, and it was a 10-month period. Now that's an intense training, and it was very transformative, and I have no regrets about my training at all, my hatha training at all. And it's what led me to want to learn more. And so that's why I went into the chair and wanted to learn more about that. And then the restorative, and I've done a yin program that wasn't a certification, but like I feel like I could probably teach yin, even though I'm not certified, I could probably do it because I did the very immersive sort
Mm-hmm.
of program. And I just feel like that there is room for all these different styles of yoga as long as we're true to the roots. Like, I'm not about the, like, beer yoga or, like this sip and Saturday, whatever the hell people are doing on Saturdays, posting a pose with a glass of wine or a beer or something.
Yeah.
To me, like, that's just sort of disrespecting the whole culture of yoga, you know?
Yes, I'm with you on that. Yeah, thank you so much for all of it. So I'm gonna go just talk a little bit about the pieces you shared. First of all, yes, wine yoga, beer yoga, this yoga, that yoga. I mean, yeah. I don't see myself teaching it or joining either. And I think it's for me, I personally think as a student, as a teacher, I think that's the connection. We come to our mats to kind of connect mind, body, spirit. So why distracting ourselves with a
So can
cute
you take
kitty or a
danger of it? If somebody is not used to drinking and they have
yes,
here they or one drink,
yes.
that's dangerous.
Right? That's another point. It's just
I
like
have a mess. I have enough trouble balancing. I don't need any alcohol added in to add to that whole situation.
right, exactly. It's just like in the same way I don't drink and I don't know. It's just like now if I drink, yeah, so I understand a lot of people enjoy it and that's something, but I truly think, yeah, why distract ourselves?
Right.
It's just all coming back to ourselves. That's the whole point of the practice. But we're going to get back on that maybe a little bit later too, a little bit deeper conversation. But let me get back to a little bit to your book. Actually, as a teacher of yoga and student, I love the idea of you writing that book because when I taught chair yoga, the reason when I taught chair yoga, um, for me, it was I worked with two groups of people. It was seniors that they had troubles with, the balance or, moving their body in a way. So we needed that support. And another group of women that I worked with them, they were struggling because of their body size and some of them because of the illness they had, they were struggling going up and down or balance. Like taking them to take a tree pose by the wall, even by the wall, it was just too much. It took me about 3-4 months of work with them. So that's how I worked at chair yoga. And I see it when I want to practice with my dad. When I see him, I'm like, oh, hold on to the chair, let's do this together, because that's how I feel. I mean, because of his age, I don't want him. I know he needs that support.
Right.
But when you mentioned it, and I know because I've been through the training and I know how amazing it can be for ourselves, somebody who doesn't need it necessarily to do the chair yoga, get yourself deeper. I love the idea you just mentioned. So write that book, please. I want to read it. I want to learn it myself. Honestly, I would love
Well,
to see the
I
sequences
I
with you.
bought the book on how to draw the little people and the poses, but it's hard to adapt for chair. So I think that when I do write the book, it's going to have to be pictures. Like I'm going to have
Yeah.
to pictures instead of drawing the little stick figures.
Mm-hmm.
Because also I think it'll be easier for people to see it that
Yes.
way, and then I can, so it's definitely on the bucket list. It's something that I really want to do. Um, but that's for you know a little bit later. I'm gonna have to like bring in all my troops to help me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a big project, but I'm following you and I'll be in touch anyways. I would love to see that and I would love learn about that. Honestly, even to bring it for my personal practice. I personally deal with chronic illness myself. I've been dealing for some time. Yoga has been helpful, obviously, but there are times that I can't do certain things. I still can't do the practice that I was doing a couple of years ago, a few years ago. So I can see how that can be beneficial to anybody.
Yes.
Um,
um
yeah,
can I go back to something you said about
yes,
the chair yoga? You were talking about people that were bigger.
yeah.
Okay, so this is a big thing for me. I'm a bigger bodied yogi, and an instructor. I don't fit the norm. I don't fit the ideal body shape and size of a yoga person who does yoga, not even to mention an instructor. And I think that it took me a long time to get comfortable because so many teachers don't know how to cue for somebody who's bigger. Like, I understand alignment is important, but I teach, okay, well, some people say your alignment should be this way. Some people say it should be this way. I say find your alignment, because if you have to move body parts, like a lot of times in certain poses, you physically lift your stomach or your boob over so you can get deeper or whatever. You do what you have to do. And that's something that in a studio nobody would ever cue for a bigger bodied person. And like you already feel ostracized when you're in a studio and you're bigger and you don't have the cute little bra top set thing, like because it doesn't fit your size, you know. And so you're already feeling sort of on the outcast. Like I would honestly, when I first got into a studio, I was given a scholarship. And so I would stick myself in the farthest back corner just to, like, I didn't, just to take up no space. And I know now that I need to take up all the space. That's what our job is when we're doing yoga, is to take up the space. It's ours. Take it up
Yes.
and find your alignment. Find how the pose works for you, because ultimately, like I said before, energetically, we're finding the same engagement of muscles and the same outcome of the pose. And it doesn't matter if my foot is heel to heel or heel to instep. It really doesn't, because I'm balance challenged, I'm bigger, you know, there's a lot of issues that come into play. But that doesn't mean that you can't do yoga. And I hate it when people say, well, I'm not flexible, so I can't do yoga. Or I have bad balance, I can't do yoga. Well, guess what? I'm not flexible. I started practicing yoga and got more flexible. And also balance, I'm Romberg positive. Do you know what that means? It's the Romberg test that they give to patients who have, I know with MS, I don't know what other, I'm sure it's other illnesses as well. You stand with your feet together, eyes closed, hands at your side, and the doctor watches and hopefully will catch you, because for me, I sway, and sometimes I fall. And I'm always very like antsy when they tell me to do it. I'm like, you're there, right? Don't go anywhere, because I'm telling you that this is not a good thing for me. And I every single time I stumble. So, you know, when people say, close your eyes and come into tree pose, and I'm like, that's never happening for me. That's never, ever going to happen. but so for somebody who's bigger and challenged with medical challenges, I can tell you that you can still do yoga. It's for every body, every body.
Love that. Yes.
And that's always one of the hashtags I use. Every, and then the body's all capitalized. Everybody. That's,
I love that.
and like so many people don't understand that it's so much more than just the physical benefits, because like I'm a totally different person since I started practicing yoga. Like I look at everything differently, you know, I see things differently, and I'm not perfect, believe me. You know, sometimes my sister will say like, well, that's not very yogi like. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm also a human being. So it happens, you know, but I try to live authentically. And so, and that means sometimes that I'm unyogi like. It happens. We're human.
Yes, we are. And I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yes, and just it's for us, it's I'm sure, as you said, for you, it was the same for me as well. Yoga ch changed a whole lot for me, the way I look at myself, my, connection with everything, my outside world, and with people. And going back to what you mentioned about close your eyes in the class or working, with just different sizes, different bodies. I've been on both end of it, being the teacher or being the student, working with the students with this different sizes, not yogi, whatever it is that out there these days, unfortunately. And I've been in the other side as a yoga teacher, that I didn't feel confident in my body because of the illness that I had. At some point when I was teaching, because of my chronic illness, I was very swollen, very puffy, face, eyes, hands. I was extremely bloated. If you looked at me, you thought I probably 6, 7 months pregnant, and I wasn't, and it was all illness. And I felt very, very uncomfortable showing up at classes and teach, because I thought, oh, I have to look in a certain way. Unfortunately, that was it for me too, because it's out there, because that's how I learned. At the beginning, it's just, and I was thinking, I was so embarrassed. So many times I didn't want to show up, especially when I was getting my flare up, and I looked so terrible in my mind. I'm like, I can't just show up. They think I'm like oh, she doesn't do her workout herself, you know? Why are you here? Because I always want to work with somebody I know that they practice what they preach, right?
Hmm?
And I did. I honestly, I never left my practice. I was practicing, but my body had issues,
Right.
medical issues. So I totally feel you, and I totally understand, not just understand, but I'm so happy that you brought that up because it's not about how thin or bigger or I don't know, different size will look. It just people deal with different things in their life, and just be mindful of that, and don't think that yoga is gonna change. It's gonna change a lot of things for us, but it didn't take my illness away. I mean, it helps. It's still helping, but I still have days that I look still puffy and swollen, and I still look pregnant, and I just show up and I teach. So it's somebody needs to take. I mean, we need to talk about it way more than what it is out there. I don't think there's enough talk about that, and people look at it as just like they think anybody who doesn't look in that perfect yoga teacher things because they don't take care of themselves. It's not love. No, there's so many other factors there.
Yeah.
Please be mindful.
It's like the iceberg analogy. What you see at the very tip is what you see. But under the water's surface, there's so much. The thing is huge. It expands down. And so you don't see probably 90% of what is underneath the surface. So, like, if I'm walking down the street, people think I'm perfectly healthy, and oh yeah, she's a bigger bodied girl, you know, like, look, I've embraced it at this point. I'm 50 years old and I'm not going to apologize. You know, I eat healthy, I exercise every single day. Look, I was handed, I swim in a shallow gene pool, is what I say. And it's true. It has affected my life in many different ways. So I don't apologize for it. And if somebody can't see that I am a good yoga instructor as well as a good yoga student, I show up on my mat every single day. Every single day. I do not miss a day of yoga. And it's part of my like self-care routine. Like it's like as much a part of my life as brushing my teeth. Like it's just instinctual. Like it's just what I do. And if other people can't value my wisdom as an instructor, and I'm always reading and learning more and trying to soak up everything I can, I'll never learn as much as I want to because, you know, these teachings are so vast and so deep, so profound. We'll never, if you studied yoga your whole entire life, you would never know it all, you know. But for me, it's as much a part of my spirituality, which was something that I was missing before I started practicing yoga, as it is a part of being uh, as as it is a part of my exercise or stretching, because I also do other kinds of exercise as well. But you know, this is where I find my peace. I find my peace on my mat. And even when I was in the studio and I felt ostracized, I was, because I had been meditating already, I was able to block out everything else so that it was just me and my mat and my breath, my body. And I did the yoga teacher training because I really was feeling at a point, because I'm disability retired from my work, which I was a high school teacher. Um, so the teaching thing's always been within me, you know, and it translates really well. But I was just feeling stagnant. Like I just wanted to learn more about me and my place in the universe. And yoga helped me to figure that out. And I didn't really have a spiritual upbringing. So this became my spirituality. And like every day I do affirmations with the mala. I meditate twice a day in addition to that. And it's just made me just such a different person. And like even through breast cancer, I practiced every day. Every single day. I swear I would not have gotten through it if I was not leaning on my practice. And I mean, I would go to my yoga class. I used to see a personal trainer. She moved, but she would have small classes in her space for like 5 or 6 of us. And I was like going without a bra. I was like, I couldn't put any clothing on. I couldn't wear anything. And I couldn't wear deodorant. So I was like apologizing in advance to the people there. I'm like, okay, my boobs are going to be flopping everywhere and I might stink. But like, I need to practice yoga because, this is a rough time for me. And I swear it's what got me through. I swear it's what got me through. And I'm so grateful that I took it upon myself to do the yoga teacher training. And I had no intention of teaching.
Same. Oh my God, I was the same way.
It was just for me. And then here I am. And the other girls in my teacher training, they were practicing way longer than I was at the time. And they were they wanted to teach. They were full on ready to teach. And me, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna, nope, it's just for me, nope. And here I'm the one teaching and they're not. And they come to my classes and they're like, man, you're so good. That's such a good class. And I'm like, oh, it's such a compliment coming from you guys,
Oh my God, that is so beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful.
Well, I'm so happy that you found yoga for you. And I agree with you that it's not about what people think of what we're doing. Do I practice every day or I don't? I mean, I finally learned that I don't have to prove myself or my practice to anybody. I do the practice for myself, honestly. I mean, now it is part of it is because I'm teaching, so I want to practice what I'm teaching. But when I started, I was the same way. I never thought ever that I want to become a teacher. I had absolutely no confidence in getting in front of people and teach, especially in English. And
Oh.
so, yeah, so I was like, I just want to learn because I found that teacher after many years of on and off practice. I found that teacher that yoga started making sense for me, for my body. And even the words, like some Sanskrit, some, stories that I was hearing, I'm like, oh my God, what these things are. I want to learn more. That's how I got into it. So when I did my teacher training and my practice is really for me, I'm the same way. And I totally understand what you mentioned is for me is my self-care. I do it. I every morning when I wake up, I do have other forms of workout to take care of my body. And after I do that, and then I head into my sort room, or sometimes at home, I do my practice just because it makes me feel great. That if I don't do it, literally when I miss a morning yoga session that I'm used to doing, my day is kind of like, it's just nothing. It just doesn't feel.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything's just off.
Yes, exactly. That's how I feel. So that's why I do my practice. Part of it, the study. So the study part of it is the same as you mentioned. It's like I'm reading. I'm actually lately these days I just like I use the yoga Hatha Yoga Pradipika book, the Light and Yoga book. So I'm keep
Yes.
reading it, and I've read that before. But every time you read it, it's just something else. In every season of life we are, those writings, those teachings is just I think it's we kind of get a different understanding of them. So you always learn and
And
it's
I think
never
it
enough.
has to do with what are you needing at that moment. That might be
Yes.
different from the last time you read it. And so it
Yeah.
stands out because I too, I mean, I have a lot of books like that I always go back to. Light on Yoga is one of them. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika is one of them. The Sutras of Patanjali is one of them. Like all of these books are very much part of something that I just pick up and I'm like, okay, let me see what I need today. And I just like thumb through it and I'll find something. And it's really amazing. Like these are such ancient teachings, and that's why I'm like I try to be as true to my teacher for teacher training, very spiritual. She's Jiva Mukti. So my hatha training is very Jiva Mukti inspired. So there's chanting, and we count out loud for every every
Hmm.
breath, so that we know that we're equal on both sides. And so it's almost like when I go to a class and they don't count out loud, I'm like, why aren't they counting? How do they know that we're equal? Like, how do they know? Like, I have to, even in my own practice, when I'm practicing by myself, I no longer listen to music because I stopped when we went to Zoom because nobody could have music
Hmm.
on because it was muddled, but it would muddle the voices,
Yeah.
unless you had a fancy setup with a receiver and this, that, and the other thing, which who has that, right?
Yes. Nobody did really.
So, so there was no music, and even if they would send the playlist, which they did a lot in the beginning, like the Spotify playlist, and
Hmm.
they'd be like 3, 2, 1, play, and I found myself now. I find that I listen to the music of my breath because if I have music on, I tend to like sing along, or I'm like bopping around instead of holding my pose, and then so when I'm practicing by myself, I count in my head. And, I love one of my favorite yogis, and I love everything he says, is Brian Kest. And, as you know, he's coined with the uh, whole power yoga movement, which is not power yoga like in a gym. It's very different.
Yeah.
What real power yoga is holding a pose for a long time. And he says if you're focusing on your breath, your mind can't go anywhere because you're focused on your breath. Where can your mind wander to? And don't we want our minds to be present with our body and our breath while we're practicing yoga? So why people place so much importance on a playlist is also one of those things that I just don't understand. I don't understand. Like so many people in these different groups I belong to are like, oh, does anybody have recommendations for playlists for this kind of class? And I'm like, okay, do we really need to waste time talking about playlists? It's the least important part of the whole entire class.
Yes. I'm with you. I used to I used to have music when I was practicing at home. And I loved the classes that I was taking, there was music. But I had this thing, and I still, even in my teacher trainings, when I teach these days, I always tell my students, if you're playing a music in a class, no lyrics. That's too distracting. No lyrics. So if you want to play it. A lot of people like it. A lot of people like it. I do play music in my classes these days because I know my students like it. But for me, it's just classical music, no
Yeah,
lyrics. So
yeah,
just a little bit of kind of like soothing thing. But it's always, for me, it's the same way. It's always coming back to your breath. Even when I cue them, it's always the breath is there because at some point when I started, I gravitated towards Ashtanga. Like I was practicing mostly vinyasa. I gravitated towards Ashtanga, so no music there.
yeah.
And I started practicing Mysore. There's no talking there. There's no teacher talking you through or cueing. So that silence, when I did that, I'm like, oh my God, where was this the whole time I was practicing? I needed this. And I love it. I love it's just the reason I keep going back to Ashtanga is just one of the part of it is just that silence. It's the breath because you have to count your breath in. We don't do it out loud necessarily, but for me, it's when I do the practice while I'm in the posture, I'm counting my breath because I know after 5, I have to come out of this posture, move to the next one. So it's always that when I'm in that hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is, I'm on my a mat and I'm practicing. This is barely ever I have time to think about anything else anymore.
Yeah.
When it's music, you get distracted, you think about the music, the memories of that track of music come up, it's like all the
Yes.
things, all the distractions.
No, I started using when I practice by myself, I use nature sounds.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
I'll put on like a rainstorm,
Mm-hmm.
which is like my favorite sound. I love
Me,
that sound. So I'll
me
put that
too.
on. That's the only thing that I can, because that's just like white noise, sort of
Mm-hmm.
like bringing you into nature. Like I don't have an outdoor space really here in my house where I can practice. So I have to do the best with the space that I have. So I've done what I can to make it, more yoga, more like a yoga space and not like a basement, basically. And so that's one of the things that helps sometimes if I'm having like an especially hard time settling onto my mat. I'll put on that and it's like magic, you know? And then once I add my breath in, it's like, I wonder, how did I ever like go into a studio and take a class where there were like music, like songs that I know, where I'd be singing along. Like,
No, I never go back to that class. I've been there and I'm like, nope, I'm not coming back. I
no,
can't.
no, it's like, why do we need it? We have the music of our bodies. That's what we need, you know, to really tune in and feel things and be appreciative,
Hmm.
you know, and think about, wow, look at what my body can do. Even though I'm bigger, even though I have these medical issues, even though nobody would think that if they passed me on the street that I am into yoga because I don't fit that mold. But guess what? It doesn't matter because I do it for me, and the people who have taken my classes know that I can do a really good class. And I think that the thing that we have to deal with most of all is this whole Instagram, like I'm going to do a handstand on the top of a cliff kind of thing, and that's just ridiculous. It's dangerous, and you know it's not accessible for most people. Seriously, like these poses that people do, they're not real yoga. It's a snapshot. Like it's from a video, it's a snapshot. It happens like that. They hold it for 1 second, take the screenshot, and there it is. And nobody knows that it's really not a perfect hold for this amount of time kind of pose. It's ego driven, this yoga community. And I don't like that because it wasn't always that way. And so it bothers me that it's becoming more ego driven, and yet they're not making any like any active wear apparel lines. They don't have extended sizing, so it just makes the people like me stand out even more. Like, why can a thinner person wear a cute set and I can't? Because you know, my body is disproportionate and my top needs to be big and my bottom needs to be smaller. So it's really it doesn't help with the whole self-image thing, you know. But then like when I get on my mat, I'm totally over it because I know what I can do. And that's really where yoga is magical, because it doesn't matter what the societal view is of what is the perfect yogi, because it's about what I feel when I'm on my mat and when I'm practicing.
Hmm.
And at that time, nobody else matters. Nobody else matters. So they can think what they want, but you know what? I don't have that ego. So it doesn't bother me, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention that because I did see myself that you can do handstand and you can do inversions and you can do all those postures. But I understand your point of view is just like it's is it all the yoga? Is it just these postures, these perfectly put together postures or pictures out there? And it's interesting because I remember, excuse me, a few years ago I had a friend of mine texted me and she saw a picture of me doing a hollow back handstand. I can't do it now anymore because of my medical issues. I can't do any inversions. Back then I could, and I posted a picture of myself, I guess. She saw it and she messaged me. She's like, hey, can you teach me that? I'm like, well, that was like probably, I think, the first year I became a teacher. I started teaching actually. And I asked her, do you have any experience? Do you have, inversion experience or yoga at all? She's like, I've never been to a yoga class. I've never done anything before. I have no idea what it is, but I want to do that. And I'm like, hmm, interesting. It's just, as a kid, I did gymnastics,
Me
right? And
too.
then I'm like, really? Oh my
Yes.
God. Okay, we have to talk offline too,
Yes, we do. Because you know what? I had to get over a fear as an adult of going upside down. What is up with that?
I
You
know, right?
humble for ages, and now I could. I was like, my feet have to go where now? You
I
know?
know. Oh my God, I know the same. It's just like I used to do that without I have a picture of myself as a kid on the arm of my instructor. I'm doing hand balance, handstand on the arm, his arm. I'm like, why? I'm scared now. Like I have that fear. But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, so the pictures that can send a different message. It's just like, okay, yeah, that can be part of your practice. I don't say it's not okay to do all those postures. Those are advanced asana postures. They come in all of these books that we read, and they have some benefits, but that's not the goal. That's not what you have to go after. I
And
mean,
you can get those same benefits doing a simple downward facing dog. It's an
yes,
inversion.
yes. And when my friend, that person told me about that, that picture of me doing that, I'm like, when I was looking at that, I would have thought gymnastics, knowing what I practice in gymnastics. I was like, if you want to do that, you get there faster if you go to gymnastics. You can get there probably in 3 to 6 months. In yoga, you probably need to practice a little bit longer. I mean, it depends on the body and the person, practice all of it. But in general, so yes, they can send wrong messages. They can kind of show it a little bit different than what it is actually is and what is actually doing, unfortunately. But what I say is, when my that friend of mine told me she wants to do that, I'm like, well, maybe for you, this is the way getting to yoga. Maybe for her is how I'd be like, okay, you have to start from zero, you know,
Yes.
do the simple things that you probably are not gonna like. And if you get to stick with that enough to get to the next level, which is that posture, good for you. But she never did get there. So that wasn't it. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, what is it that I always look at it, I'm like, okay, what am I trying to do? How am I going to get my students coming into this practice? My goal is having them come into the practice, but they see the real yoga. Because I personally started seeing benefits. When I started personally, it was extreme stress. I was like going through extreme stressful life events. So that was what helping me. And then later on, it was my health issues, medical issues, that it started helping me. So I want people, anybody comes to practice with me, I want them to see deeper. I want to see these benefits. I don't care about what kind of an asana you do or the posture looks in your body. Do whatever you want, or I teach whatever I can. But hey, do you know these are the benefits? Because a lot of
Right.
people still don't know.
Right.
Still.
The the outcome is not to, like, that just is so surprising to me, that some to do yoga just so that you could do advanced yoga, what advanced yoga poses. That's, for me, never, that has never been the reason why I practice yoga. I
Me
can't do
neither.
very many advanced poses. I mean, I can do inversions, but I can't do very many advanced poses. I do a solid yoga practice that has a lot of foundational poses with variations, with modifications, and with long holds. So I can breathe and enjoy it and feel it. That's really, and listen to my body. So if I go too deep, I know I'm past my edge and I need to back off. And that right there, that is the sign of an advanced yogi. Not what posture they can do, but knowing when they've gone too far and knowing that they have to back it off.
Absolutely. Yes, that's how you know somebody is advanced in their practice, when they know how to back up. And when they know the difference between listening to your body is the laziness, I want to listen and back off, or my body giving me a symptom, giving me a message. So learning those differences, that's where the advanced part comes in. It's not about the posture. I mean, still look at pictures of teachers that they've been teaching for so long, and when you look at their simple postures of warrior one and warrior two, you look at it, you're like, oh, it's not still perfect. What I say, I want to put it in uh, but it's still not that, because, well, it comes with the practice, and it always gets better. It always gets better. You look back at your own personal practice. I look at that. Everything is a little bit better now. I had setbacks because of my medical issues, health issues, and then some of the things I had to start over again. But who cares?
It
Who
doesn't matter.
cares?
And that's
No.
always waiting for you.
Yes.
It's
So
like
it's
home. Getting on the mat, it's like coming home. It's
Yes.
going to be there for you. Every day is going to be different. And, you know, and that's okay. You have to learn that that's part of the practice. So if I can hold warrior 3, as we were talking about when we were,
Yeah.
if I can hold that one day, I'm happy, even if I can't the next. You know, it's just
Yeah.
every day is different. And that's okay because that's yoga.
That
It's
is,
not,
yeah. Yeah.
it's just about continuing to grow and even those moments where I get frustrated because it's different the next day, that's part of the process of learning about your body. And that's what we're really all about, right? So
Yeah.
it's all part of the process of just being a human. There's the great quote about everybody's a spiritual being living the human experience. And that is something that comes to me quite often when I'm practicing. And I'm like, I get frustrated, and then I say, okay, well, you know, I'm just a human being. It's okay. You know, maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe not. It's okay because, you know, I'm still going to be on my mat either way. And if
Yeah.
it comes, it comes. And if it doesn't, then it'll maybe be the next day. Whatever. Because I'm still going to show up.
Yes, that I always remind in my classes, almost every time that I teach a class, I remind everybody it's just we call it a yoga practice because it's always a practice. There is no end, there's no end line. It's always a practice. One day you feel better in a posture and one day you don't. Like it that's how it is. And that's the beauty of the practice. That's how we learn when you're not feeling it, you still do it. That's where discipline comes in. And you learn when it doesn't feel right to back off, as you mentioned before, listen to
Right.
your body. And that's that, then you learn the simple rules here while you practice daily over and over and over and again. And then you learn how to apply all these to everything else in your life. That's the beauty of it.
That is
That's what I love.
taking it off the mat.
Yeah.
The biggest lesson for me that I've taken off the mat is that we should all focus on progress and not perfection.
Yeah.
Because you know I definitely when I was working and in my old life, I like to say I was a perfectionist, and it's a horrible thing to be. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But the best thing about me not working anymore and picking up yoga is that now I see that progress is really what we're about, and that comes off the mat. That's a lesson that can be applied anywhere. Nobody is perfect. We're all human beings with flaws. Nobody is perfect. But if we make progress, that's already a step in the right direction. And that's where we should find our happiness. You know, that we're progressing, not just as yogis, but as human beings,
Yeah.
evolving, understanding, being sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate, kind. These are all things that come with the progression of your soul, really.
Yes, beautifully said. I don't want to add anything on that. It's just beautiful. And what you shared is absolutely how it is and what it should be. Um, Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you something, a couple of questions I have. I know we have about 10 minutes left. I don't know, but I think after 1 hour, Instagram is going to kind of kick us out. That was my understanding, but we can test it out today.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you one thing. As a practitioner of yoga, a teacher of yoga, you mentioned about two big things that you struggled, three actually, you mentioned. So the MS, that how actually your yoga practice is helping, the breast cancer, and the the this body size, if I put it in that way. I mean, that wording is if it's right. So these were the three things, and I kind of, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm kind of want to look at it as they were kind of obstacle in the practice for you, physical practice probably, emotionally obviously too. But at the same time, the yoga practice for you was something you helped you to overcome or help you manage all of these. if you're okay with that, I would like you to talk a little bit about, especially I would love for first for the teachers that they're watching, that going out there and just talking to students, just kind of look a little bit deeper. It's not just the face and the body. You're looking at a lot of things may happen. People may go through it and a lot of things. What you want them to know as a teacher, and for anybody struggling or going through the same things, like, you know, especially because when you look at it, MS and breast cancer, those are the two things that you're like, they something if a lot of people, and I know because I have friends of myself that's struggling with the same issues, not the issues, same ailment, disease, I guess. Um, but kind of give them a little bit of hope and tell them how yoga helps and why they should be going after it.
Okay, well, first of all, referring to the chronic illnesses, it doesn't matter whether it's MS or any other chronic illness. I also have diabetes. So, like with any chronic illness, I mean, I always say, so I stopped using the word exercise. I have a group on Facebook that's for MS and exercise. I stopped referring to it as exercise and I started to refer to it as movement, because any movement that you do for your body is going to help. And once you stop moving your body, you don't have the option anymore. It does not work for you the same way that it would if you continued to move. And the movements, I always say, baby steps are still steps. Like if the only thing you can do is sit in a chair and pump your arms, you don't even have to have weights. Just move your arms. Move your arms around. If that's all you can do, great. Because you know what? We're about progress. So then we build on that, you know? And with me, I started with chair yoga. I hated it. I was like, I'm like, oh, this woman's going to keep me in a chair. I don't need to be in a chair. Like I was like that person, you know? And then I learned, because she was just not the right teacher for me. And she didn't want to adjust. It's like when I was a classroom teacher, I had to look at all the people, all the kids in the room, and I had to differentiate everything for each kid and their learning style. And the same thing applies to yoga. Like you can't expect to come to your mat on your first day and be able to do the hollow back handstand. You can't. You have to start with foundational things. And that means, all right, so let's just try to walk. I had a friend a long time ago when I first, was first diagnosed with MS, and she was complaining that she couldn't exercise. I'm like, can you walk on your driveway? She said, yeah. I'm like, then walk up and down your driveway. Then you're not too far so that you don't have to worry about turning around and getting home. You're home. Walk up and down your driveway. Have you tried that? No, it doesn't work for me. And I'm like, all right, well, you don't know until you try anything. So that's my number one thing. You don't know until you try. You might surprise yourself at what you're capable of.
Yes.
Because, I didn't think when I first started practicing yoga that I would be where I am now. And listen, my practice is solid, but look, it's because I do it every day, and not every day is great. There are some days that it's just not good at all. And I end up taking a class and sitting in Shavasana. But I'm still breathing, the collective energy. I'm doing, clearing my mind. I'm connecting my body and the breath. So I'm not in a posture and holding it. I'm still doing it, So you have to start somewhere. And so the great thing is that yoga meets you wherever you're at. It meets you wherever you are at. So it doesn't matter what you can or cannot do, because it will work with you from wherever you are. So that's like my biggest piece of advice. Don't underestimate yourself or the power of yoga, which is not, for me, like I said, not just a workout. I mean, I love the feeling of like after a yoga class and I'm in Shavasana and then I get up and I feel amazing and my limbs feel long and loose and lean and I feel like, wow, that was so great. But that's not the only form of exercise that I do. And it's not, that's really the purpose. It's not about changing the physical. Change the mental first, and then the physical falls into place. And then you just don't even care about it anymore. Like, ever since I've been practicing, I don't even think about what other people think about me anymore. I couldn't care less. If I don't fit into your ideal of what a yoga person looks like, well, go somewhere else then. There are
I'm with
plenty of us
you.
out. you know but if you want to give me a chance, you might like what I have to say, and you might like what we do in my class. Just saying. It doesn't have to be a super intense thing. It's about letting your mind focus on the body, and the mind is very powerful. I know this, having gone through these medical challenges of my own, and now my husband, who has stage 4 colon cancer and is going through treatment. I know that the mind is very powerful. So we work a lot on mindset. Whenever he says something, we try to reframe it so that it's more in a positive light than a negative. And that's so important. And so I've done that with myself ever since I started practicing yoga, because I had to. There's nobody there to do it. In a studio, there's no teacher that's going to tell you that. When they look at you and they say, oh, she's this like fat girl. Like, I'm just saying what they would say. I whatever. I don't care what they think. But like, in their minds, and their skinny little minds, they're going, well, what am I supposed to do with this girl? Like, she's got a stomach, she's got boobs. What is she doing in this class? She's not wearing a cute little matching set. What am I going to do with her? It's something I had to do for myself. Learn how to find my alignment, and how to find my balance, and how to make the practice work for me, because it can work for everybody, not just the one body type that everybody's so used to seeing on the cover of like Yoga Journal magazine.
Yes. Yes. And I agree that with the practice, all of it comes. I don't know how it happened for me, but I'm the same way. I became more positive person. I started letting go of what people think of me. I started letting go of a lot of people in my life because of it. I just made the changes. It just came to me, and I just started feeling better and better and better mentally, physically. I mean, through all of it, through the chronic illness, everything, every time it comes up. Today in my practice, I actually hurt myself doing something that I was not supposed to do, because I know I'm not supposed to do it, but I tried to push myself. So you learn, you still do it, you still go through. It's all the practice, it's all learning. No matter how many years you teach or practice it, it's always learning and learning.
Always learning. And you
Yeah.
know what else? I think that a lot, because we talk so much about not the non-judgment thing. Like, I think because I stopped judging others, I stopped judging myself. And that has been one of the most powerful outcomes of yoga for me. Like, I don't judge anybody. I understand that everybody has things going on that we don't know about, and their stories are private and we don't know about them.
Yeah.
So I can't judge anybody, and so I don't judge myself. And that's such a huge benefit. And I don't think that it ever would have come to me if I was not practicing yoga. It's just one of the big things that like came to me through this amazing practice that can be suited for anybody. Anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say it enough. Like, anybody
But
can do yoga.
yeah.
It's not about your flexibility or your balance. It's about your head. And if you have a head and you're breathing, you could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just connect everything together and magic happens. It's just truly unreal how this practice has changed so much of my life. So much. And then consequently my relationships.
Yeah.
And like you said, I did a lot of house cleaning with the people who were toxic, because I learned that, like, oh, these people are not affecting me in the way that I need them to, so I can't have them around. And that was a huge thing. That was a huge step for me. So all of this happened because of yoga, all of it.
I love that.
So I'm forever grateful that I fell into it, that I found the right instructor, fell in love with it, and continued it, and always want to know more about it, because it's just such a beautiful thing, and it wouldn't still be around all these years later if there wasn't some validity, right? I mean, this is thousands of years worth of this practice.
Yeah.
And so there's a reason why it's still around.
I agree. I agree. It really, the more I read about it, the more I go to the books and the older books and older studies, the more I realize how much this is real. This is real. This practice it works in different ways. I think it's really important for us as a practitioner, as a students, when we come to it, learning how to apply it for ourselves, for our body, for our lifestyle. It's so important. Don't look at it in like one narrow, view of this is it, this is yoga, this is how we do it, or this is how I'm supposed to look. If you let go of that, and it may come with practice. For me, it came with practice, honestly. I started thinking that way because that's how I was looking at it, because how I learned about it. And then by the time I started letting go of that idea, and then I started applying it to me, my life, my thoughts, whatever it is. It's like I don't connect into religion, but I like the spirituality part of it. I don't do these postures because it doesn't work for my body. I don't play this, I don't do that. It's like all of it. Clean up, let it go. Doesn't work for you, doesn't work. The things that work, apply it and let it work for you. That's how it is.
I agree 100%. I could not have said it any better.
Thank
I
you.
couldn't have said it any. That's exactly what it is. You let it work for you.
Yeah,
The pieces that work for you, let it work for you.
it does.
You
Yes.
know?
And it's
Yeah.
powerful. And it's powerful.
Very. Incredibly.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm happy. I'm looking at the time and I'm keep checking. I was like, I hope they don't kick us out. If that happens,
That's all.
yeah, it's over an hour. If that happens by any chance, I'm gonna save the video and I'm gonna call you back on so we can finish up, just so you know, okay? But let me ask you, if you still have time, let me ask you one more question, and then we can, two more questions actually. If you
Okay.
have, before I move to the questions, I just want to, this is an idea, feel free to take it or leave it. But I was thinking, as a yoga teacher, that you teach and work and practice with people with any body, when, as you say, for everybody. Why don't you put together maybe a little course or something for the teachers to how to cue people with different sizes? I would love to hear that. I mean, I worked with the students. I worked over 4 years with students with different sizes, not my size, different body size. I mentioned that. But I think it would be very helpful, especially for newer yoga teachers, kind of like learn how to cue or what to do, how to adjust. I mean, that would be great if you do that. I think that would be very helpful.
Actually, it's funny you should bring this up, because one of my friends here on Instagram is working on this exact kind of course at the moment. And I'm collaborating in a way to help her. And she's a bigger yogi as well. And she also she has an illness that she is battling. So she's wheelchair bound at the moment. So we've been working on a lot of stuff together. And that happens to be one of the things that we talk about a lot, is cueing for bigger bodies. And so yes, that is an excellent suggestion.
Well, great. I'm so happy to hear that. I'll be in touch with you, and I would like to learn more about that too. Maybe at some point we can collaborate together, and maybe I can just bring you in to, talk to my students, and I have my own Facebook group. I do trainings for teachers there. So maybe we can do that for them as well, just to learn a little bit more from you. That would be great. I think everybody needs that, honestly. I think
I think,
teachers, yes, I think teachers need to learn how to cue, how to talk in the classes, considering everybody else's. I mean, I understand there's so many people from so many different things coming to your class, but like I never cue in my class, close your eyes. Never. If I say close your eyes, I say, or have your gaze heavy in front of you. I know some people can't close their eyes, whether it's trauma, whether it's balance, so many things. So
there's a lot.
learn being,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's great. I think that would be such a great addition for teachers, New Year's teachers,
Yeah.
to
I
learn.
bring every class, like if I am teaching a class and there's all different bodies, like I just say, well, I don't know about you guys, but like I know that I'm gonna get a better twist if I just lift my boob up and push it to the side so that I can get my arm over here and all.
Hmm.
And honestly, if you're doing this like twist thing and you just move your boob out of the way, you get so much deeper into it. And when you forward fold, if you pull your stomach up or push it between your legs, because your legs, like my legs are never fully together because I have the Romberg thing, so they're always like just about like maybe 2 fists apart. So I can either press my stomach down in between or pull it up, and I can get deeper because the stomach holds you back. Plow is a whole nother thing. Let's not even go there because there's so much I got to move around there, But I mean, but I always say, like, if it helps you, if you have bigger boobs like me or you have a stomach, maybe you want to just try moving it over to the side a little bit and see if you can get deeper. Or, those are the things that
Yeah,
I say because I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable doing it. So if
yeah,
they see me doing it, they're not going to feel uncomfortable. Like I have no shame in doing it because I know they're going to be better off for it. So it's worth it. And if I make an ass of myself, then I make an ass of myself. But I think they appreciate it because I'm authentic about what I deal with, and it's fine. Like there's no issue that I'm not upset that I have body parts that I have to
mhm,
move because I can move them. I just move them out of the way, and then I can get
yeah.
on my merry way into the pose. It's all fine.
No, that's a
So
that's a great point. It's just like, first of all, we're appreciated that what we have, and we can move them. And I understand your point. Like I don't have big boobs, but my stomach, when it gets bloated, when I have the flare up, it's just so big it's on my way. Honestly, when I practice, like this morning, I get a little bit of thing in my on my mat, and my stomach right away just came out because I have hiatal hernia. It just pops out. So right
uh,
away, my stomach gets big. And so to do the twist, I'm the same way. I have to move my stomach, it's just to
yes,
get there. You have to move it, and I have to go slowly into the twist. And the teacher I was practicing, I was in my room. She came up to me, and that it was such a beautiful thing. It was such a beautiful reminder to me. She was like, Sally, I mean, I've been practicing with her for a long time, and she was like, Sally, all of these things is just helps us as a teacher to be more creative. And that's true. That's true. I know now, dealing with my chronic illness, mine is like all the digestive system, all from throat to, to colon, all of it. So when I teach in my classes, I'm a little bit more mindful of that. I noticed that myself as a teacher. Now I think of that big, big stomach on the way. Or I think of about, oh, if it's your diaphragm has issues, the twist, how you do it so you don't bother it, or how to breathe, how to control. So it all comes with practice. And for you, it's just like, okay, it's the boobs, it's the stomach, whatever it is. So it's great, and especially if there are any newer teachers here listening or watching us, I want them to hear that, because these are they start as an obstacle for us. All of it, for
mhm.
both of us. I mean, it was for you, it was for me. They come as an obstacle in the way of our practice, and then we learn how to modify, how to apply it, how it works for us. Then we become better teachers. I'm sure I'm a better teacher after these 2 years of struggling with my health issues than I was 2 years ago. The way I teach in my classes, the way I'm aware of how I teach to my students, the way I kind of consider everything else. And the same way
And
is for you.
what? How much does that translate into the real world off the mat?
Yes, right?
It's beauty of the whole thing, you know? Like we talked about before. It just comes right off the mat with you.
Yeah.
That's the exact kind of thing that you could take with you and understand how to talk to different people, how to not judge them, how to understand. You know, it's a whole cycle of this beauty that we can share with other people.
Absolutely. Yes. Um, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. The struggles and the obstacles, they become our teachers. And
Yeah.
and I want everybody to hear that. I wish and that I can share with near, special near teachers or the students or teachers going through anything. Because yes, I mean, yeah, who's going to get anything out of illness? You know, what am I going to get out of an illness? I thought of it when I started dealing with it. But then, like, I learned a lot. I became a different person. I started appreciating life and every moment of it differently. So
Yeah.
that's the way. That's what we get out of it, I guess.
Yes, from every single obstacle, like you never know why it's given to you. But looking back, there's always lessons that were learned, and that's why it was given to you, because you needed to learn that lesson. And those lessons you take with you, and they make you a better, not just a better teacher, but a better human being. You know, a more compassionate, a more empathetic, a kinder person.
Yeah.
And that is, if everybody in the world did yoga and treated it like we treat yoga, can you imagine what a beautiful place it would be?
I know. I always say they should teach, and I said it last week too, probably every week in my conversations. The yamas and niyamas of yoga, it has to be taught to kids in school. If they start from there, the world is going to be a different place to live.
Oh, it's so true. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yes. That's another one of my favorite books. Do you have that one? The
Oh,
Yamas and the Niyamas?
yes, I love that. That's one of the books I gifted to everybody I knew, whether a yogi or non-yogi, and I still do that, and I still go through it. I love that book. That's like
Yeah,
one
really
of the
good.
best books from
Yeah.
yoga, the study of yoga.
Also, The Four Agreements is one that I always go back to. That's one that I gift to people because it's an easy read. It's short, it's small, it's cute, it's compact, but it's
Yeah,
powerful.
it is, and it's so easy to apply it to life for
Oh,
anybody, non-yogis too. It's just like it
oh,
makes sense, you
oh,
know?
it's such a beautiful book. Yes.
Well, that's one of the books I'm going to put on the list that you suggested probably here.
Oh, I think I put it there. Yeah, I think I put it up from my list that I
Yes.
gave you.
So give me two other names if you have it with you. If no, I have the list with I don't have it right in front of me. But if you have any other suggestions of the books, courses, anything you want to share with especially yoga teachers here, go ahead and please share with us. Otherwise, I'll pull the names from what you sent me before and I'll add it. Yeah, yeah.
So if you could pull it from my.
Yeah, yeah. I'll add it to the notes. Yes. I didn't think of writing and putting it in front of me right now, unfortunately, but I'll add it to the list. Um, okay, thank you. Let me ask you, um, it was a great conversation so far. Is there anything else you want to add? You want to share? Anything good, bad from the world of yoga? Anything personally you want to share with teachers? Anything?
Um, okay, to share with teachers, I think that the biggest thing that I wish that all yoga teachers would understand is that although we all have the same body parts, we are put together slightly differently. And so, what might look right for you, according to how you were trained, doesn't make it right. And you have to be able to be flexible with these things. Because otherwise, you can actually inflict harm on somebody who doesn't have the exact same composition as you. And you never, there should never be a yoga injury, ever. Because we should know our bodies. We should know when we know where our edge is. We dance around it, but we don't go beyond it, you know? And so understanding that is hugely important. And and to accept every single student, because they have come to your class. Be grateful. They are going to help you learn. So our students are our teachers as well. And so instead of making somebody feel awkward because they don't fit in whichever way, it doesn't matter, whether it's body size, they have a medical issue, whatever it is, instead of making them feel like they're being ostracized, use them as a mechanism to help you learn about this world that you might not know about, the world of a bigger body or the world of a chronic illness. That, like, I have neuropathy from like my rib cage, top of my rib cage down to my feet. I can't feel my limbs in space. Like, if I don't have a mirror or a buddy to tell me, I don't know if I'm in alignment. And so I often videotape my practice because I don't have mirrors at home and I'm not in a studio right now because of my health and my husband's. So, instead of singling them out, blanket statement for everybody. Like, if you see somebody is having an issue, and then, like, this is how I teach. When I see something, so because I won't do hands-on adjustments right now because of just germs. I might be a little crazy, but like when my best friend comes over and we practice together, yes, I'm going to do hands-on adjustments on her. She tests and she's good, But like, I'll say, okay, don't forget, right hip down, left hip back, and you can see people actually, like, they're like, oh, am I doing that? Like, and I did that when I was in class. Like, any cue that the teacher said, I made sure that I was doing that. But instead of saying, hey, Rennie, move your left hip back, you don't have to call anybody out. Like, I don't want further attention drawn to me because already people were in cliques and they were talking and they were in their little outfits. And here I come on a scholarship to this studio and I'm like, oh my God, like nauseous, like ready to throw up because I'm so anxious about what's going to happen. I've never taken a class at this studio before. I don't know this teacher. Like, excuse me, like, what's going to happen? So it's really important to understand that, like, no matter what anybody looks like, it's you want to see the soul of the person, and they're there because they entrust you with their practice. And that's such a huge responsibility and a gift. And we need to treat it like that. Like, if I only had 5 students, I was grateful. 5 students, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's so amazing that all 5 of you are here. That's great, But I would never, the amount of times that I had been called out by name by different teachers for anything, alignment based or anything else, it's embarrassing, especially when you're in that situation that I was, where I felt so on the outside already because they were established, and I walk in and I'm like, hey, and nobody came over to say hi. One person, and she's the only one that I'm still friends with, and she came over and she's like, hey, and she's like, oh, is this your first time? You should start up a whole conversation with me. She didn't look at what my body looked like. She didn't care. She saw beyond that, and that's what we all need to do. I think just to be aware that not everybody has the same skill set, and that it's important just to make people feel comfortable. Because if they're not comfortable, they're not going to come back, and they might never practice yoga again. And
That's
that's
a good
not what
one
we
too,
want.
yes. That's a good point because some people come in and if they don't like it, they think they may not like the way you teach and they think that's yoga. I don't like yoga. And when I teach, I try to my students, teacher trainees, I always tell them it's okay if the people don't come back to your class. They're not supposed to like you. Not everybody's supposed to like my teaching, but don't do it in a way that they go and think, oh, this is yoga, you know? Just don't push them away because of the yoga. make it
Yes.
accessible for them, no matter who it
Yeah.
is in their class. And what you mentioned about calling out names, I kind of want to emphasize on that because I remember when I was in my teacher training, I had this thing that one of the teachers actually called out my name while I was at the corner sitting, and I didn't want to kind of like be seen or anything. And and later on, she mentioned to me that, you know why I did that? Because people like to be seen and to be heard. And that might be right. That might be true. For me, it wasn't. I didn't want to be called out and be seen while I'm at the corner. I'm trying not to be seen in front of other group of people. So watch out for that. So if you're want to kind of give a cue in a class or adjust them, maybe go closer. Even if you want, if you can always give a. I walk around all the time. I walk around in my class, and when I give the cue, I always look at the people and I give the cue to whole class. It's not
Mm.
about, hey, person, you, Sally over there. No,
Yeah.
they get it. Or if they don't, it's okay. Maybe you go closer and you remind them closer if you want it to be really, focused on that person.
Right.
If
That's
you
very
think they're
effective.
gonna, yeah, if you think
Yes.
they're gonna injure themselves, they need to know, go up to them rather than calling out names because yes, not everybody wants to be seen.
Right.
We come to the class. For me, my yoga practice, when my yoga mat, every time I go, it's the place that I want to kind of like, it's my cocoon. I want to be by myself. I don't want to, I don't want people. I don't even want anyone to talk to me. I want to get there, do my practice, be by myself, and walk out. So be
Yes.
mindful of that. There are different people, they come with different desires.
Yeah. And the other advice I have for teachers is to still take as many classes you can with as many different instructors as you can. Because I like during the pandemic, I was taking classes through like 5 different studios, all these different teachers, and each one of them helped inform the teacher that I'm right now. And I still do it. Um, whether it was good or bad or otherwise, like I would say, okay, well, I'm never going to say that cue. That I don't like that cue. And then others are like, oh, well, that's a great cue. Or like, oh, that's a great warm up move that I never even thought of. So like these have been such huge lessons for me just taking classes with, and even though I'm a teacher, I'm still always going to be a student, and taking other people's classes has helped me so much to grow as an instructor, like between not just the sequencing and the cueing, but just overall the feeling of the class. So that's like a huge thing, and many people don't even think about it. Once you become a teacher, they're like, oh, okay, I don't need to take classes with other people anymore. And yeah, can I guide myself through a practice? Absolutely, I do it all the time. But there are times when I much rather just not have to think about where I'm heading next and just let somebody else guide me. And I listen carefully to what they have to say. And then I take from them whatever pieces that resonated the most with me, and I incorporate them into who I am as a teacher.
Yeah,
And I'll never stop doing that. It's so beneficial. It is something that I wish that somebody would have told me when I finished my teacher training. Like, you're never going to be done learning, so just go and take a lot of classes with a lot of different instructors because it's going to only make you better. And I fully agree with that.
I agree with that. I always tell in teacher trainings with my students, I always tell them, go take as many as classes, different styles, different teachers. See what you like, see what you don't like. Because whatever you like, you can take it and apply it to your teachings. Whatever you don't like, that would be okay, this is no. For me, it was like I started taking classes and I'm like, oh, a class with the music that has lyrics, I don't go back to that class. I never went back to that teacher. And now I never teach a class with a music with lyrics in it. So that was one lesson I learned. So that's with every other teacher. And still, I still, every day that I practice at home, but I still go to the Mysore room and I still practice with a teacher that I learn. Every time she cues me, I learned how to cue. Every time I have an issue, she helps me. I know, oh, if you have this, then this is what you can do. So you always learn,
Always.
always
So
learn.
important. So important. Like your learning isn't done the day you graduate from your teacher training.
That's just the start. Oh my
Just the
God, that's
beginning
just the
of your
beginning. Yeah, it's just like after that 200 hours, you're like, okay, I don't know anything. That's where you start going to learn. If you stop there, you're done. You're not
That's
gonna be a
right.
good teacher, honestly. Yep.
I agree 100%. Like that's just the beginning of the whole journey of
Yeah,
becoming the teacher you want to be. You
yeah,
know, the biggest part.
yeah. For me, it's been almost about 10 years now, and there are days I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything. I still get that feeling of, oh, I need more. Like I study every day. I have a study day time in my schedule almost every day. And but there are days I'm like, I want to go teach a class, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to learn something new. Before I look at my sequences and teach my classes every week, I learn something new, or I go back to something I knew and studied again. How can I apply it this time to my teaching this week? Always about
Yeah,
learning.
always. Always. It's so beautiful.
Well, we're over an hour, 26 minutes. I don't want to take more time of you. I know I promised you 45 minutes to 60 minutes, but it was a great conversation and I could
But
not stop. Um, I really, really do appreciate your time. I really want to chat with you more offline and then hopefully back online here again because I know that it's a lot that honestly
yes.
even today I learned from you and I know I will more and it's the conversation is just fluid, it's so raw and so beautiful. Thank you for that. But before we
Thank you.
jump off, go ahead. Sorry I cut you out.
I appreciate you having me and letting me talk about some of these things that have been obstacles for me and hopefully helping others to understand that they don't have to be.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I always say if I struggle with something or if I like something, it doesn't matter. That means there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people out there with the same issue, with the same desires or obstacles. So um, I'm sure there are a lot of people, hopefully, there are a lot would watch and listen to this conversation and learn from our experiences and our obstacles. Um, Before we jump off, can you please tell us, our listeners, our viewers, where they can find you, where they can follow you, learn more about you, or learn more from you?
Okay, so I am on Instagram at Yoga Ren. I'm on Facebook, Rennie Leighton Rankin, and I have a blog which is makinglemonadebecauseIcan.com.
I
And
love
I'm
that
on
name.
YouTube. My YouTube is Ren Rank. All of these things are linked in my Instagram profile, so you can just go there. I have a link tree set up there that has links to everything. And get a hold of. I'm not affiliated with a studio at the moment, but I do teach privates and small groups outside and on Zoom. So if anybody is interested, that is absolutely an option. So always willing to share how I got to where I am and where I expect to keep on going. And I hope that I have been able to inspire just one person who thought that they can't do yoga to just try it and see what it can do for them. That's always my hope. It's just one person.
Yes, it's always from that starts from there. Thank you so much, Rennie. I link everything you mentioned all so that where they can find you here or when I post them on podcasts Apple and Spotify. Um, thank you so much for all of it. You inspired me looking at you and learning from you. There's so many things you touched today that I definitely I was like I needed to hear that myself. So that was
Oh,
the first person to start. I just want to
oh,
share you with that, just so you know. Um, such a beautiful conversation, and thank you so much for your time. I will be in touch with you, and hopefully we will see you back here again.
Okay, thank you so much. It was such a great talk.
Yes, it was. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.